no.
Just incredible, incredible stuff. But this is going to be so exciting. Game 1, Weibo have selected blue side, and we have to see what they can get done with it. T1 absolutely a terror on red side throughout this event.
And one of the big questions coming in was, what is Weibo's plan going to be in game number 1? Seeing that they are the underdogs, we have our answer. 100% Faker's playing a different champion this time around.
This was such a discussion point of would mid lane be that focus? Maokai left available, but you have to know Rel is available for Oner, and he has been stellar on it. There's a lot of options here. Bot lane focus could be big as well, and they're going to do it right away.
And this is the thing. The Kalista has been such incredible priority. It was something actually used against T1 in the JDG series, and I think Renata Glasc is the most important champion for this series as a whole. Crisp, incredible on the champion. Keria, of course, debuting it in their very first game in the Swiss stage at Worlds. So this is very, very important, especially to see what the rest of Weibo's plan is.
And not only does it deny Crisp, we've also seen Keria himself be extremely successful on this. Keria Renata, Renata Kalista rather, incredibly hard to deal with. It will be the Shy going back to the Aatrox, which has been the main blind pick, but Zeus immediately in game 1 pulls out his Yone. Also Xiaohu will be playing the Jace, meaning we get that Maokai Jace combo that has terrorized the Rift all year.
Yeah, this is going to be incredibly exciting. Getting the Yone here, game 1 in the finals. T1 getting spicy already.
And now is it actually the Yone for Zeus? That's the question.
Faker.
Because Faker has played, I believe he celebrated his 70th unique champion this year. People have been talking about Faker's champion pool. It's a really interesting topic, right? Because we don't know how much he's been practicing recently, but I think he's played the most champions professionally out of any other person on the planet.
Exactly. I mean, this guy is the consummate professional. He's such a grinder. He's been back from his injury for quite some time, so you have to give him that respect that he can play everything. It is going to be such a focus down towards bot lane, though, now, as T1 are the ones blinding their bot lane. They're going to be banning away the Varus, the Ashe, two of those really highly prized picks. Crisp has been playing more of the Enchanters, though. He's moved towards things like Lux and Heimer when Renata was gone, so I'm going to be interested to see where he actually takes us.
I'm also really big fan of the bend here from Weibo, because we now have, I think, Oner's best champions all gone. The Rel and the J4 are at the front, but his Sejuani also was quite strong, and taking that away might put Oner in a tough situation, and he has been the player that improved so much throughout, or rather from summer to the World Championship. Putting him in a difficult position could be a big win, as it is the Ahri for Faker.
So Faker's Ahri coming out, and that does immediately make you think, could it be a Vi as that last pick? You know, the Vi-Ahri pairing has been so popular throughout the year. There's also an angle to play like a Poppy or something like that if we get more dash-style champions coming out from Weibo. But it's going to be Senna TK just trying to neutralize this bottom lane here. And we'll see how well it's going to do.
Yeah, this is something that a lot of people have been talking about as well. The fact that Light and Crisp can go back to this style, we've seen already that they can play it to great effect. We'll see what the answer is going to be, though. Hard engage into the Tahm Kench is something that can be a little bit difficult if it is single target. So maybe not the Vi here, and maybe it could be the Poppy for Oner. We'll see where he decides to go.
I feel like Wukong could actually be a pretty good answer.
Lee Sin! Okay. All right. Well, that is definitely a choice you can make in game number 1. Of course, this is Oner's most famous champion by a country mile.
And something that for T1 was a really big surprise for me was that when you look at the way that they beat JDG, it wasn't just with these style of comps. They actually opted into more team fighting. This time around, though, this comp needs to win in the early game. Faker and Oner, Guma and Keria, they need to start stacking dragons. They need to get ahead early, because if you get to the mid to late game, look at the front to back on Weibo, right? This is a composition that's really hard to engage into, and if T1 ever lose map control, trying to get onto Maokai, trying to take down individual targets against the Kench is going to be extremely difficult.
And when you're second to those objectives with Maokai saplings in every brush, you're going to be getting poked out by the Jace, which could be difficult, but both teams lacking a little bit as far as the hard engage goes, but T1 does have the ability to pick people off, you know, with the Lee Sin, with the Yone, with the Ahri. They want to be moving around the map. They want to be pushing out lanes, catching people in transitions, taking these skirmishes as often as they can, and we are just moments away from getting onto the Rift.
Exactly. Game number 1 is upon us. Of course, T1, a lot of finesse possibilities with a composition like this, but I look at Weibo's draft and I think we've seen these styles of draft so many times in the past, staying tried and true as we head onto the Rift for our very first game. T1 coming out swinging, and Weibo, I think, ready to pick up that punch. See exactly how it is going to go. Worlds 2023, game number 1. Let's do it.
And already, I've got to point out, it's triple TP for Weibo. Crisp is going to be taking the TP on that Tahm Kench, so feeling that they can't necessarily get pressured heavily enough to actually get killed. If he feels he's going to get chunked out, hey, you TP back early. You know, you keep up that farm as much as you possibly can, but it's going to give you the advantage in playing that map because they will have that extra teleport come mid and late game.
Another thing here is, what is the level 1 going to be? I think that one of the other really underrated parts of the Senna Kench is how strong their level 1 is.
Exactly right, but just a reminder to connect your League of Legends account with Prime Gaming to grab the exclusive Braum W emote. And if you haven't done it already, my goodness, I mean, this is, just do it. Just do it now. That'll be fantastic.
It's a really good emote.
Yeah.
And you saw there as well, no opportunity, unfortunately, for Weibo to use it, at least for now, although late invade might come through. But I do think that the level 1 of Weibo is so strong, and they're clearly expecting this. So T1, I think, very smart not to opt into this and take the risk in game 1 of the finals.
And they were pretty good at utilizing Tahm Kench in that level 1 play, if we remember back to it as well. So certainly no shenanigans this time around. And I think in a game number 1, that is a good idea. Faker on his 4th unique champion here for Worlds in game number 1 of the final. But of course, Ahri is one that he's been famous for many years.
And I think there's going to be so many eyes on the mid lane because Xiaohu has not been performing to the level that people were hoping for from him. You know, he hasn't been having that incredible tournament, but now here in his first ever World Finals, he's got to step up if it's going to be Weibo win.
Exactly. Well, Piercing Darkness coming through there from Light. Not too much, just a little bit of a tussle, a little bit of checking each other on the bottom side of the map, as Faker now trying to push forward. Xiaohu just having an okay time here as the Jace into the Ahri.
And we'll see if we're going to see, and rather where we're going to see the early jungle attention. Because I think for T1, obviously, self-explanatory, Dragons and Heralds are incredibly important to pick up early. But there is an opportunity to try and go for these aggressive plays. I think Weiwei in particular has been really good about consistently finding bot line angles. Although he is currently pathing towards bot. We'll see how T1 can cover for Zeus, because he is already shoving in. And if you can get an early kill on the Yone, it can really send it behind.
Well, an owner's going to use this to invade, right? He's going to win this duel against Weiwei, so he's just going to try to get right in his face, push him out. He knows he has that pushing top lane, and we'll see how this fight does go.
Yeah, nice little sidestep there to avoid the Sonic Wave. Weiwei just making sure that he can keep that health bar high. Has actually popped the potion there as well. It's the sapling in the brush. His owner's just looking to try and wreak havoc.
But look at Zeus. Zeus is already moving down. That's why he starts the camp now, because Zeus got the push in. He's going to come down, so Weiwei's going to have to back off. He could look for the 50-50, but he risks putting himself in danger. So it should be Owner grabbing the Wolf, and they can continue this pressure on. You can look towards mid now, as Xiaohu's in trouble.
Yeah, Owner immediately moves over. There's the flash. A Q's going to land from Owner, but he decides to not go in under the inner turret, and Xiaohu looks to try and fire back.
This is just great stuff early on here from T1. Owner, 3 camps top, moves into the enemy jungle to cover Zeus on the push, then uses Zeus' pressure to move down, steal the Wolves, rotates over towards mid where Faker has that, now into a bot side scuttle. This is really clean, really well pre-planned play here from T1.
And I'm going to be looking towards how are the junglers able to punish the lack of flashes.
W as Faker gets the charm. He stomps it to the skies, but I don't think it's going to be enough because his flash is already down. And first blood goes to Xiaohu.
And I haven't even finished my sentence, or Weiwei does that exact thing. Punishes Faker for being that far up in the lane. And all they gave up for it was a wolf camp.
And we said Xiaohu had to have a good series, had to have a good game. And what better start than a first blood on the Spring King from the LPL in his first World Finals.
And you mentioned it already, Chronicler. Xiaohu is a guy that's had a lot of attention from a lot of fans and already starting to silence some of those doubts. But it is very, very early days in this one as we check out the replay. Really good pathing here from Weiwei.
Yeah, this is just great from Weiwei. It just wraps around, you know, did skip that topside scuttle, and I think Faker potentially thought he was actually over on it. Just comes right down, pass immediately there, is not going to be able to get out as Faker committed the flash for that trade earlier on Xiaohu.
And if you think back to the spring final, or summer finals rather, that T1 wasn't able to win, it was in large part because Gen.G identified if you get Faker off of some of his comfort champions and you put him down early by a lot of repeated jungle attention, it can be a viable way to get an early to mid-game lead against T1. And we've seen that they can struggle in that situation. And particularly with draft like this, you need to win. You can't try and kind of go through the middle, you know, maybe pick up a dragon or two. No, you need to be able to dominate from the get-go.
And Ahri Pre-6 is one of those champions that you really can take advantage of. You know, that is why Azir was so key for T1 in their playoff run. And Weiwei, it's interesting to note that it was that first gank in towards mid. You know, he has been so heavily prioritizing these bot side ganks throughout Worlds. In the LPL, it was much more about playing towards the Shy, but at Worlds, it has been about playing towards Chris, playing towards Light. And I really wanted to see what his game plan was going to be coming into Worlds, because clearly T1 would be prepped for that.
Well, Oner going to clear out some vision. As you can see, Control Ward in the Drake pit. First one going to be a Chemtech Drake. And Oner is going to very happily join Keria as they look to take this one down. So at about 6 minutes into the game, we will have our very first dragon. Faker coming on over, not going to be able to steal anything away, just getting some information here for T1. So they will be able to secure this dragon. So that is one of the steps that they have taken here. Still, they're going to need those big advantages like you guys were talking about in order to make this one work. Looking here towards the bottom side, Gumayusi has a huge advantage over the Tahm Kench, but something that you would expect. It's not necessarily a lane you can really judge on CS.
I mean, you can see it in both top and bot lane, though. You know, these CS differences obviously is the Tahm Kench versus that Kalista, not comparing it with the Senna. But both top and bot, significant CS advantages already here for T1. Mid, slightly favored towards Faker despite the death. They are out-farming their opponents, and that's why they're still up this slight amount of gold despite giving up that first blood.
And this is something Weibo was also able to do. The Shy, specifically against Bin, was able to use the fact that the matchup was isolated to push really heavily for big CS leads and then take those leads into mid-game fights and carry them.
And when we talk about comps that are relying on these early game advantages, one of the ways you can do it is just by stacking dragons. You're playing Kalista, you're going to have bot side pressure. Even if you can't establish a massive gold lead, if you take these early dragons and put the pressure of that soul on your opponents, you circumvent a lot of the weaknesses in hard engage that your composition has. You draw your opponents to you, you force them to challenge you at these dragons where you are going to be set up for that fight, where you are going to be in the advantage.
Well, right now, it is just a bit of trading in lanes. Weiwei going to go home, collect himself a book and a Control Ward, try to get back to it as Chris, the tongue lash. It hurts a whole lot more, I feel like, when you've got him sitting in a lane by himself for quite some time, but he's actually still just level 5, same as everybody else. And Gumayusi still playing aggressively, not able to land too many of these pierces, as Zeus' soul is relatively unbound as he just keeps shoving these waves relentlessly into the Shy's turret. First plate has gone down already here for T1, like you were mentioning, Azael playing into the advantages in gold that is now ticked up to about 500.
And my expectation is that T1 is going to use this top lane prio to secure Herald without too much difficulty. Faker almost will have his flash available. Xiaohu already has his. But with this Aatrox being perma pushed in, it should make the setup for T1 around this objective pretty easy. And they have also already rotated over Gumayusi and Keria. So they're going to secure this. Then my question becomes, where are they going to throw it down? Because the two obvious solutions to me would be either Zeus or Guma. Obviously, Guma already massively far ahead, but a Yone in a side lane, I think, is one of the biggest things that Weibo might not be able to answer.
I agree completely. I think it should go towards Zeus. He already has the push. This is one of these hyper-scaling top laners that he already has the early push. You can harass those towers, harass the Aatrox with the Soul Unbound, and you get him that big gold lead. This guy can make miracles happen in a 5v5. Zeus has been simply incredible throughout the World Championship.
Certainly has. And now Faker is going to dash in, finds the charm onto the Tahm Kench. Faker has to get out of there, though. Can't be snared for the hostile takeover. Gets so much work done. The Devour's in, but the kill's there for Oner. Xiaohu now going down low as Faker dashes forward once again. But it looks like they'll have to settle for one and a Herald.
And Weibo, they see that T1 is at the Herald. They rotate over, and I think they try to recuperate. But that's sunken cost fallacy because they just walk up. T1 finds the angle, and Weibo give up the Herald and a kill.
Exactly, and maybe going to lose some farm down on bot side as well, because Chris has no TP, but Zeus.
Nature's Grasp comes in, he gets pulled back, he's interrupted from the ultimate. Zeus does get a knock up there and a shield, but I think he's still dead. And there it is, the answering kill from the Shy.
Weibo able to punch back on the top side. You can see Oner hanging around that bottom side, potentially threatening, as Guma and Keria are going to push it in. Already have taken a plate themselves down there, but great kill back on the top side. Does help to equalize the gold there for the Shy.
Yeah, gold now actually completely fine. The Shy might even be able to pick up plate as well. And crucially, Zeus doesn't have TP, so actually is going to lose out on this wave. Unlike Faker when he was ganked earlier, who just TP back to the lane, not going to be the case here. And that's the second time that Weibo, the initial play might not work, but Weiwei pulls it back.
Exactly. And Zeus just couldn't use that ultimate quite fast enough, you know, so Weiwei was able to get ahead of him, blocks the ulti, and then from that point, Zeus says, you know what, I'm dead either way, so I'm going to hold on to the flash, but that is an unfortunate death for him as he had so much pressure on topside, so much tempo, and a lot of that is going to be lost now, but not lost in the mid lane where Faker has continued to push in, continued this relentless aggression here, despite being that first death.
Yep. Even though he did fall down first up, Faker is pretty good at bouncing back from initial deaths. The global taunt that he's had for the last 10 years seems to be the thing.
The most ganked man of all time.
I think it's probably true, but also he's played like the most games out of anyone else that still plays currently. So it's a weird stat to go towards. Bottom side of the map, we do see a reset coming through here for Gumayusi and Keria. Not quite towards the first item yet for the Kalista, which would be pretty important for the next fight coming up. See what they can get for themselves.
Yeah, you see as well already Weibo is moving up. The second Drake I think is really pivotal. There are a lot of good Drakes still available for T1. No Camtech Dragon in particular.
We know exactly what Drake it's going to be. It's T1.
It's Cloud.
It's got to be the Cloud. They've got the most Clouds out of any other team at Worlds.
You don't want them to have Cloud Soul, particularly not with the amount of mobility on the team. So I think that Weibo is going to try and contest here. But T1 still are the ones with control of their pot side. Prio is now being found by Light and Crisp. Herald being placed down just in mid lane to try and pressure Weibo out and get a quick move into the river.
It's going to mean that that Dragon should belong to T1 if they can get control with it. Faker sticking around for the cash. They will be able to gather it here. Orbit Deception going to go wide, and it looks like Faker's not going to stick around for another plate. As Weiwei going for a reset, they're going to give up the second Drake as well.
Yeah, I think there's just no real angle for them to contest from this point. Owner drops the Herald mid, they get Prio there, they reestablish Prio down on that bot side, move up through the river. And with Keria and Guma at such a strong point early on in the game, it is going to be Cloud Soul.
Yeah, it's not a question mark. I did tell you. I informed you. I didn't pose a question.
Well, Atlas, I always want to believe that you're right about dragons. And in case of Clouds, I gotta say, you often are.
Yeah. And do you know who was actually the one that told me that my love of Clouds was actually okay? It was Azael. As Crisp is taking some damage here towards the bottom side. It's all right.
I've always been a Cloud believer.
Yeah.
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 Move speed turns out pretty good.
Uh-huh. It's a pretty good stat. And Zeus not going to, he's actually going to utilize some move speed to move out of the Infernal Chains. Look at
nice
that.
transition.
Proving your point immediately, Azael. You love to see it. Owner is here, though. It's going to be a 2v2. Zeus taking a bit of damage as the Q comes down. There's the ulti. Nature's Grasp, but look at the knockups. The kickback. Weiwei punches him out of it. The Dawning Shadow flies through to help get the kill onto Zeus. It looked good for T1, and Weibo struck back.
And Light saves the play. T1 make the call before Zeus has back to all-in on specifically the Maokai. Just finished his Demonic Embrace. Weiwei is able to stay alive. Light keeps him there. And a big win for Weibo.
They thought they could punish the missing flash that had been spent as Keria looking for an angle, won't find it. They wanted to be able to burst him down. Faker.
Yeah,
maybe
Everfrost has come through. Foxfire coming down, but they do have to invest the ultimate. Faker now not going to have that for the next play, and that's what Xiaohu wanted.
We'll have to see now. The Shy getting more and more ahead now in that top lane. You know, has taken a couple plates, does have the kill and the assist. Gore Drinker completed, tier 2 boots done. Zeus with that big farm lead is still keeping things relatively even, but both those scraps on the top side have gone Weibo's way.
And again, Weiwei to me has been the crucial factor here. 100% kill participation thus far, able to make sure that T1 doesn't get that momentum. Now, I don't think that T1, particularly with the dragon stacking, is necessarily in grave danger, but this means that the gold stays on parity, that Weibo still gets to scale into that mid to late game, where it can be incredibly impressive to enter as the Shy might be getting ganked.
Yeah, Keria is going to move on up here as Zeus is going to break those chains. Keria is looking for that handshake. Angle is already, the Shy's done a fair bit of damage, but I don't think it is going to be enough as it's Alco Gaming for the Shy, and he will go down. Owner grabs that kill.
Owner, nice kill on the top side. If 2 doesn't work, bring 3. Bring another guy. Keria on the roam up towards top side. Wasn't really expected, I think, to be up there. The Shy thought he was going to be safe, but now dying there with no TP does mean there's going to be a pretty big push. You can see Guma. Of course, you have to compare that with Crisp's goal.
Oh, brings him back in with a twisted advance. The kickback as well as Weiwei gets out the punch, and now Xiaohu coming on in. Owner's going to burn down, and no bailout for you. Light's in a bit of trouble, but the charm is not going to get it done because Crisp is there with the denial with the Devour. and T1 have to run away. What a play from Weibo.
And continuously, they are getting out skirmished. Weiwei should be able to get the execute here. So nothing given up. And Weibo walk away victorious again.
Weiwei has just had such an incredible journey as a player. You know, this guy first starting on V5, came in with them, played with BLG, and since joining, Weibo has made such a difference with this team, has really transformed the team, has such good pressure in the early stages, and him getting going early always spells good things for this team.
Certainly does. Let's have a look at the play one more time.
And as we look here, initially it looks like T1 wants to back off, but Weiwei goes very far back, but then crucially barely stays alive, right? And with him getting away, there is no bailout value for Oner, and the fact that Faker TP's in doesn't matter because Crisp is standing at the ready with Devour.
Yeah, Crisp is there, and Light with some nice little side steps. Don't think the charm would have mattered even if it landed because Crisp was right behind him, but well played on the sidestep nonetheless. T1, though, continually going towards these objectives. They know they need to keep pushing the pace, and Weibo here looking to challenge.
And nice Shock Blast is going to soften up T1 just a little bit here. 4 versus 3 in this moment, but Faker's wrapping around from the top side of the fight. The Shy pretty far away from this one. And Zeus is moving in, gets over the wall. There's the ult. It's going to be dodged as he gets himself out of there with the Unbound Soul. And T1, they are going to be able to secure the Herald.
Forces the flash from Light, and they get the Herald. Really nicely done from T1. That is what has been going their way all game long.
And now I'm wondering, can T1 also get themselves to this Dragon in time? I think they just have enough time to still get the backs in, make their way, spend their money, and then try and set up this soul point very early on. Because while when it comes to gold, Weibo has been able to stay very relevant, if T1 pick this up, they will have gotten every single objective thus far, and it will at the very least force Weibo to maybe make some tough decisions once Zeus in the sideline becomes hard to deal with, because I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up going for Hullbreaker again.
And this is such an early soul point that they will be moving to. Their third Dragon here taken, if they can get it, around 17 and a half minutes into the game. You know, threatening that 22, 23-minute soul would be a really tough spot here for Weibo. So they have to get mid lane control. They have to be able to push this out, then move into the river. They want to be first to the scene. You can see Weiwei trying to keep these saplings down and harass T1 as they try to move in. But in the bot lane, it's Zeus with the push there. And if he can get Pryo down to that bot side, they can potentially set up a flank from multiple angles.
Yep, Oner should be able to put the Herald down here as well to help them get that mid control, get towards that Dragon. But you can see Weibo don't want to give up the river right now. Weiwei just standing stalwart. The Shy is going to turn up. Charm is going to connect, but Faker probably not wanting to go in on that one. You're going to connect from Oner and T1, just keeping up this pressure, allowing Weibo to move into that river, knowing they have Zeus very close to that bottom wave to keep pressure in the lane.
Exactly. Zeus threatened moving up. He went, just did the Gromp. Now he's down back towards that bottom lane, pushing that out. So forcing the response from the Shy. T1 are happy in this stalemate position right now. They still have the Herald to work with, so if Weibo overcommit towards the Dragon, they can just drop Herald mid and guarantee that tier 1.
Carrier's going to miss the handshake, but the Q's going to land from Oner. Weiwei could avoid it with the twisted advance. Oner not going to go in as the Everfrost, it gets the Devour. Gumayusi getting himself out of there and utilizing his ultimate to save Carrier as well, but that is so many cooldowns, and now Weibo have started up the Drake.
Weibo might be looking to go for it. They've also used a number of cooldowns themselves, most notably the Shy and Weiwei's ultimate. We'll see if T1 tries to go for an alternative play, just push mid, but it looks like Weibo isn't even going to give them the opportunity as Oner!
Oh, there's the kick flash. Shaohu's going to be pushed into Faker. The flash forward, but the charm is going to miss. What? The Pierce doesn't land, and Xiao just walks it off. No worries there at all as Crisp is under the turret. They throw down Herald, but Zeus has found 2 with the ultimate light. Goes down so low, but isn't going to survive. Weiwei trying to get himself out of there, and the Shy is given up on. Weiwei running the wrong direction, but they at least get the Dragon.
Weibo get the Dragon, but T1 get the kill. Xiaohu lucky to get out of that one, but Weiwei, he's going home in the body bag.
That is the final kill there from Oner. And that is the first fight that T1 have won, but they've lost that Dragon stacking that you were talking about earlier, Chronicler. And so we'll see whether they can grab that next one and keep this level of pressure up, because 2.3 thousand gold, is that enough of a lead for this early game composition?
And there is a reason why Oner's Lee has been feared. And the funniest part to me is this play doesn't even matter, because Xiao actually is able to walk it off. Another miraculous survival. Faker doesn't get the chase because of Crisp, but then it's Zeus who got put down in lane that makes the hero play.
Exactly, comes in on the other side. There's no Devour because Crisp is over saving his mid laner, trying to defend there. So Light is left vulnerable, and Light is punished big time. T1 getting that major gold injection in. And you can see a lot of these towers that they've been pressing. If you look on live, Faker taking down that top tier 1. A lot of these turrets have been getting lower and lower from this T1 lane dominance.
Yeah, you can see there's a lot of relief on Tom's face there as well. Hoping that T1 can get this mid-game sorted out. Owner stealing away some Raptors. Full vision given over to Weibo. 3.5 minutes on the clock when it comes to the Drake, as in goes Zeus. Xiaohu just boops him away, and Owner is going to come through as well. Xiaohu in still a lot of trouble. Safeguard comes in, Xiaohu moving away from the Lee Sin to the skies, comes down. The Devourer is there, it was Crisp coming forward, and he saves his mid laner, but that is a lot invested.
That's the problem, is that even though Xiaohu makes it out alive, Crisp uses TP, and they're not even going to be able to save the turret. So even though Zeus isn't able to actually clip Xiaohu, he sidesteps the ultimate, it's still a big win, and the Hullbreaker is in fact done, and it makes him such a menace in the side lane.
Exactly, it's incredibly difficult to deal with him. They become incredibly tanky, and one of the most underrated parts about this is how tanky it actually makes the cannon minions. They become very difficult to actually wave clear out. It allows you to harass your opponent, but Guma
could be in a bit of trouble here as Crisp looks for it. The immediate cleanse does get out of the way. Nature's Grasp isn't going to connect, but there is the twisted advance. Hostile takeover across everyone though, but the Shy is just gigantic. Guma trying to hop away. The Fates call the knockups, and meanwhile Weiwei is going down. Faker collects it before falling down. Crisp has to go though because he's so incredibly low, and Zeus is tearing them to shreds. Weibo lying on the floor now as T1 look to tidy up Crisp, and they won that team fight even better than the last.
Guma refuses to go down. Keria saves him, coming in with the hostile takeover at T1. They're on the Baron.
And it's Renata that does it again. Keria standing at the ready, keeps Guma alive throughout all of it. And T1, the goal before this was even. Weibo picked up the Dragon, but after this fight, multiple kills going over the T1. Baron secured. And it looks like the first grade might have been broken open. The early game comp getting it done.
And here is the replay. We'll see how it all started. It looked like a pick on Gumayusi.
It did, but it just took them so long to actually get to him. You can see everyone from T1 is coming as fast as they possibly can. And all the time that was bought here by Guma allows them to arrive, allows the hostile takeover here, hitting across multiple members. Light is forced to even flash out, just trying to avoid it, but Owner knocks him down. Guma dances out, using that ultimate with Keria's help to peel him off.
And we're seeing one of the big issues with the Senna is that if you're playing a front to back, Senna feels almost impossible to deal with. Particularly with Kench, it's really hard to take people down, to get through the front line. The kiteback's amazing, but if you get caught, particularly by something like a Lee, you don't get to play the game.
And also, they weren't playing front-to-back League of Legends. It was a split
Exactly.
fight entirely, with the fact that the Shy goes in, is in the middle, and it felt fantastic, right? It was a bit of a split there from Weibo with their decision-making moving forward. It could mean that they could adjust that moving into the next team fight and really show what this composition can do.
And the tough thing for Weibo is it felt like so many things did go well for them in the early stages. Those skirmishes were working for them, but when T1 hit way harder. And they have gotten so much out of these last couple plays. They're going to try to take a tier 1 top, but Faker's looking for an engaged bot.
Yeah, looking for even more. Everfrost is going to land. Somehow that charm didn't connect, but it is still going to gather a Devour from over the wall from Crisp. T1 will settle for this inner turret.
And this is where the earlier Drake from Weibo is going to feel like a miracle in the sky. Right? If they didn't have that, would be just a soul point in addition to all the turrets that are there for T1. Now, sure, they're not going to have the soul. You still have 5 minutes of time. It's not looking great, but at the very least, they'll have one more opportunity to try and get something going. My main issue is, particularly with Zeus now completely back in the game and sitting on a pretty ludicrous gold advantage, 3K in the sideline is going to be untouched.
I mean, even in the team play, he just finished an IE. He's got 3 full items now. The Shy just finishes Derek's second. And when you have the IE in, you can talk about not wanting team fight with a Hullbreaker, but when you've got an IE and a Kraken, you can one-hit the backline. This becomes incredibly hard to actually fight against this guy. So if T1 can execute on those 5v5s, as they have been doing all tournament long, we saw it showcased against JDG, against the world's best in that 5v5 stage, then it's going to be tough for Weibo. Look at Keria.
Yeah, Zeus dancing forward, but like you say, Keria lurking in the sidelines. Weibo just trying to deal with these minion waves, not wanting to give up more than they can afford to lose. T1 just going to gather themselves a little bit of extra standing gold in a turret. Not exactly the end of the world, but it's all just more money here for the coffers of T1. These shock blasts starting to land a little bit. Lands onto Faker there, but they're going to need more of those if they want to stop the pressure.
The shock blasts do hurt, but T1 is just playing so intelligently around this. They drop that pink ward mid. Zeus playing very far back because no one's answering top. You know, as T1, the only recourse in this game Weibo have is to overload one side of the map, get a 3v1, get a 2v1, get a pick kill, then attack the rest of the T1 squad. So until they show top, there's no reason for Zeus to walk up. He just plays it so far back, plays it calm, cool, and collected, and allows his team to get those incremental advantages up in top lane.
And this has now turned into an 8,000 gold lead. The Rebel Baron power play just kind of gigantic, given the fact that it was relatively close for a lot of this game. It's how T1 do really like to break open games, especially in the past when they were at their most dominant. Definitely a good sign if you are a T1 fan. And Weibo well and truly on the ropes here at this stage of the game.
And for Weibo now, you're gonna either have to have someone on T1 overextend, like you were saying, Azil. I do think it has to be someone else, because killing Zeus when he has Flash, Hullbreaker, and IE is going to be such an incredibly difficult task. But then look at what the rest of T1 is doing. No one is actually segmenting themselves off from the rest. They're always working in tandem.
Exactly. You know you win the 4v4 and you win the 1v1, so as long as you have eyes on Weibo, you are chilling. You just have to make sure you're not getting poked out too heavily. As it's going to be up to Xiaohu.
Faker waiting over the wall, wants to land that charm to start this fight potentially, but no. Weibo just back away, not wanting to take a fight unless it is far more within their favor and with more information. And that is a very difficult thing to gather here in this game. You talk about saplings, things like that, all these opportunities. If you can't walk out of your base, they don't do a whole lot of good.
It does get very difficult. At the very least, you can use that to clear out brushes, to move forward, try to reclaim some vision, as they're going to do now. Knowing that T1 is on the reset, they will try to deny some of this vision, but the death cap is going to be here soon for Faker. You can see Wit's End going to be pretty soon as well for Guma. These third items are going to be coming through when the GA comes in for Owner as well. T1 are just trying to get as prepared as possible for the Soul or for this Baron, where they are really going to look to dominate.
And really nicely done, shown by our observers here, is how little Weibo know. Well, obviously they have a suspicion that T1 is going to be somewhere in the jungle and they can scout with saplings, but actually retaking control becomes incredibly difficult. And right now, it's still fine, but in 40 seconds, the Baron is coming up and Weibo will be faced with one of two choices. Either you just try to hard force your way in and like flash engage with Weiwei onto someone of T1, but if they don't give you that opportunity, you're gonna have to try and fight up a straight fight.
And one of the biggest problems with that is when you're approaching Baron from blue side, you're setting up for a perfect carry ultimate, right? You know, you all try to flash in, try to go for that engage. If you're trying to follow up on Weiwei's play, there's gonna be a hostile takeover coming through your entire team. So the difficulty is extremely high for Weibo from this position.
Also really difficult to lock down Zeus is if he's only trading with that Unbound Soul available. You can see Xiaohu comes down. That gives T1 the idea. If there are two invested towards that bottom side, that pressure from Zeus pretty clearly illustrated in that moment.
And look at the item spikes. Wits End done for Guma. No death cap for Faker. GA for Owner. And on Weibo's side, 2 item power spikes have been hit, but don't know if that's going to be enough. Xiaohu, though, does have his Cyrildas done. Maybe that can give them the poke they need to contest this Baron, but it looks like it just isn't sticking.
I mean, it feels like it's just basically all up to Xiaohu from this position. He needs to be able to hit Shock Blast on key members that can't heal them up, which is basically just Faker.
Yeah, Owner going aggressive. There's the kick flash once again. Weiwei's going to flash to advance to get himself back. There's the Nature's Grasp as well, as Owner's going to have to get out of there. Safeguard is enough of a shield. The Dawning Shadow not quite there with the damage. And T1, they tried something. They're not going to get any kills, but they get the flash from the jungler.
And T1 don't even have to give up Owner's GA, right? He could play that aggressive knowing that he still has his GA available as, oh, he might have a flank here.
Oh, Carrier. Okay, looking for that angle as Xiaohu.
I think they might know.
Going to face check.
Oh,
they
know.
just saw him hop out of the brush. Not quite sneaky enough. The Shock Blast comes in eventually, but that is going to put enough fear into Weibo. And Zeus, yeah, like 3 hits in this Cloud Drake. Yeah.
I mean, he is just going to kill that thing so fast. They're going to start Baron at the same time. They're just going to start it up. I think at this point, T1 feel that they can do everything at once. And Weibo, you've got to make a stand now. There's just no way from this position you can give up a free Baron.
Well, Weiwei is in the vicinity, but the rest of the team is still making their way over. The Shy does have teleport, but they have no information. They have no vision. This Baron is gone.
They just can't walk up. There's not really anything you can do.
Yeah, looking for the angle. It's not exactly behind Xiaohu, but he's pretty fast. As Xiaohu's going to avoid the charm for now. Shock Blast connects onto Faker there as well. He's still going to look for that reset angle, and now with the Baron buff in tow, T1 feel like they don't need a reset to try and break open the base of Weibo here in Game 1 of the finals. Nature's Grasp flying forward. Ona still has that GE. Remember, Chris going down so incredibly low. Zeus just executes the Chai up to the side, and there is another one. This guy's Yone is just absurd. And the inhibitor's going to go down. Weiwei is burning there as well, as now Xiaohu tries to be the hero, but it does not work out. And I think T1 are just going to end Game 1 here.
And the early game, T1 not able to get a bunch of crucial kills, but they don't let it phase them. They are able to find the one skirmish they're looking for, take the Baron, and from that point on, Weibo doesn't get to fight back.
And now 1-0 here in the World Final. T1 on the red side as well, going to be able to walk away victorious. It was an early game composition and it was executed very well, but I felt like there were angles for Weibo to go back and try and retcon and figure it out for Game 2.
I mean, it's tough, right? Weibo